So the paper's up now, determining the ages of stars using DH ratios. Pull this link up. You can read along with me if you want. The slope of DH ratio given Earth's age of 4.5 billion and a DH ratio via VSMOW, which is the Vienna Standard Mean Ocean Water of 1 deuterium to 6,250 hydrogen, is 28.125 trillion. All you have to do is determine the age of an evolved or revolving star is take the slope and multiply that against the DH ratio to get the age of the star. It's very easy. The slope is 28 trillion, 28.125 trillion. You multiply that by the DH ratio. Earth's DH ratio is 1 deuterium for every 6,520 hydrogen. And you get 4.5 billion years old. And that's scientific notation version of it. 4.5 billion. Very easy. And we can use this to determine the ages of the highly evolved stars, such as Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. And all of those are on this page as well. I have two graphs here. The top graph says here, to get the age of the star, multiply the slope. And it says here also, notice how the younger the star, the lower the ratio. Hi, Celeste. This means the stars with the most lightness, more hydrogen, are the purest and have not aged very much. As the star ages, the heavy deuterium stays more and more and the ratio rises. So looking at this graph right here, the very young stars are way down here. And the older you get, see the age is up here. This is age in billions of years. And this is the ratio. The ratio, which means that it's getting more and more deuterium, heavy hydrogen. So that heavy hydrogen ratio rises up linearly on that graph right there. And what's also really cool is you can take the proposed age and you can plot it on this graph and go in reverse. You can find what the DH ratio is supposed to be. So you can go both directions. The graph on the next page has extended considerably to account for Venus and Mars, because they didn't fit on that one. That graph went up to about 5 billion. Venus and Mars, Venus is way up here. And then Mars is that little dot right there, and then all the younger objects are way down here. I wrote this down as well. I just want to be clear for people in the future, because this is such an important and valuable tool that we have now. The linear relationship was found by noticing this graph provided by the European Space Agency. I have it linked in the paper. You can just click on that little link right there. The idea was not stolen by me. I didn't steal it from anybody. In fact, I've been trying my damnedest to find where anybody else has thought this up, but nobody has. Trust me, I've spent the past 9 years trying to figure out if somebody's found this relationship or has found the realization that all these objects are all vastly different ages, but it doesn't exist anywhere, except for now. The reason why this is because the working astronomers and astrophysicists all have to agree that the solar system bodies are all the same ages. Therefore, they have to do mental and mathematical gymnastics to explain why they all have different DH ratios. They're all vastly different ages and have different histories during the evolution. And I have here, I think the reader might be interested to note that the people running the Genesis mission that collected solar wind samples were highly confused. They admitted they did not know why there were lighter isotopic abundances found in the solar wind. The solar wind's material should have matched the Earth's water. Yet, nope. And I have another statement here. It's a screenshot. Somebody had wrote up the purpose of the Genesis mission. And I have here, they had it right. Genesis did go back in time, because their whole purpose is, well, if the sun forms out of a solar nebula, then it's going to probably have the same isotopic abundances as it has right now. So given, if you could measure that solar wind material, you could find out what pristine samples of the entire solar system were like. And then you could, figure out how the solar system formed from those various measurements. But they kind of have it weird because, remember, they have the Earth and the Sun as being the same age. Which is, I can't even make sense of that stuff anymore. I just have to just ignore all of it and just go back to the beginning again. The only thing they have right was what I'm saying is that they measured the sun's solar wind and took the elements that hit this spacecraft and measured it all out to find out what the solar system was like early in its history. And that's true, but it's not the solar system as a whole in its history. What they're doing is taking measurements of a single star, a very young star. And I have here something that my 12-year-old self would have enjoyed looking at. These are the stars to scale in physical size, not orbital distance. Good God, if this was orbital distance, we'd be all screwed. But the size, this is physical size. The sun is around 100 times wider than the Earth. The Earth is down here. Here's Venus. Here's Mars. Here's Mercury. Here's Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. This object right here, the sun, that they took the Genesis mission to take isotopic abundance measurements from, it's only around 7 to 13 billion years old. It's a very, very, very young star. It's not 4.5 billion years old. An object that's 4.5 billion years old is down here. We call that Earth. We're standing on the Earth. We're standing on a 4.5 billion year old star. This is what a 4.5 billion year old star looks like, okay? Not this. This is extremely young, extremely energetic, extremely big, mostly hydrogen and helium. Jupiter is around 700 million years old. Saturn is around 550 million years old. Uranus is around 1.2 billion. Neptune is 1.1 billion. These are stars in different stages of evolution that are around 500,000 to 1 billion years old. That's what intermediate age stars look like. And the astronomers don't know that because they had the opportunity to look at the solar system, but their assumptions and their worldview has skewed their mind. They forced all these objects to all be the same age. This was 4.5 billion, this was 4.5 billion, this is 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 4.5 billion. They all forced all these highly evolved stars to be exactly the same age, for the most part. Maybe they have 50 million years off here and there, but that's considerably wrong, especially when their DH ratios all mismatched. None of them are the same, meaning not only is the sun's material not similar to the Earth's material, but the Earth's material is different from Mars, which is different from Venus, which is different from Uranus, which is different from Neptune, which is different from Jupiter, which is different from Saturn. They all have their own DH ratios. They all have their own level of differentiation, their own axial angular momentum. They're all different stars in different stages of evolution. And for those that are new, who haven't learned about this theory yet, the young stars, they're up here, they're huge, they're hot, they're bright. As they cool and collapse, and that's when they age, and that's when their DH ratios enrichen, so to speak. That's why Earth's DH ratio is enriched for 1 deuterium for every about 6,250 hydrogens. The sun's DH ratio is like 1 out of 1 million or 1 out of 10 million, something like that. It's a very, very young star. Of course, I have this paper linked to the bottom. You guys want to look at it. And I put it up for posterity because I know in the future when people are like, oh, well, you stole the idea from somebody, you're not an original thinker. And I've already got that a lot. I already have people saying, oh, well, we have always known this. Are you kidding me? No, you didn't. No, nobody has known to take the DH ratios and measure the ages of these objects. Nobody has. This is the first time this happened. I'm starting to get that. I'm starting to get that whole oh we've already known this. It's all been discovered before. Yada yada yada. That whole like trolling that people like doing. But as well, a final note. I know Robitaille is posting some videos on why the Big Bang is, total total nonsense, and explaining all the pillars really aren't pillars. Or when you examine them, when you start to examine what they're saying, they just fall apart. And it's obvious to me that the Big Bang is nonsense. And just another reason why it's nonsense is because these objects, Mars itself, Mars is older than 13.7 billion, 13.8 billion. Mars is 20 to 30 billion years old. Mars, it's right inside of our solar system. How could an object that's older than the supposed age of the entire universe how could an object in the solar system be older than all of existence itself? You see how that doesn't logically fit together? As well, Venus is between 450 to 750 billion years old. And Mercury, I have, is around 7 to 21 trillion years old. Mercury is insanely old. And if I had to guess, the reason why there are extremely old objects wandering around inside of our solar system is because when two galaxies merge, just as in Halton Arb's Atlas of Peculiar Galaxies, when two galaxies merge or collide, what happens is all those things, all those stars that are evolving, say a younger galaxy interacts with a much older galaxy, and they fly through each other, so to speak, and then combine material. Those really ancient stars, they don't just disappear, they stay in the universe. So galaxies just exchange them and exchange them and exchange them. Before you know it, you have objects that are trillions of years old inside of a solar system that has a host star that's only millions of years old. It's very easy to explain here, and that means that the solar system's objects are direct observational evidence that the Milky Way has absorbed other much older galaxies in its past. Just looking at Mercury, you can tell that. Looking at Venus, we know that. It's directly observationally confirmed. So I don't know if the astronomers are going to realize that they have really incredible understanding right in front of them. But I mean, if they keep on forcing the whole protoplanetary disk stuff to make sense, to try to do the mental and mathematical gymnastics to force that to be true, they're just going to lose out on the deepest of understandings that are being made available with direct observation right now. The whole groupthink and academia shutting down people who don't agree with them, that's, I guess, if you want to shut down the people who are brilliant, you want to shut down the people who are solving these problems, go right on ahead, but you're just shooting yourself in the foot. All right, guys, later.